Cool. So that's something similar, right? Okay, now we'll want to create this ornament at the top. And yeah, that should be quite simple. Let's just create a cube. Actually, there appears to be another small ring right there. So let's just copy this again, actually, and shrink it down. Just really quickly. It's something like this. I missed it earlier in the photo. A little bit taller. Okay. Cool. So let's take this, and we're gonna make these little... Not sure what shapes they are, but we can sort of make it similar. It's quite hard to tell from the photo, so let's just scale this down a little bit, like this. And let's select the faces. It looks like they kind of go like this in the photo. If you click F, you can focus on whatever object you've got selected. So let's move these in like this slightly, and then yeah, maybe let's do another edge loop. And if we go into the edge loop settings and just set multiple edge loops and just set it to 1, it'll create in the center. So if we make something like this as well, and just grab this point, or this edge maybe, let's move it forward to something like this. It's a bit messy, but it should do. Maybe let's push that a bit slightly back. Let's select these vertices and just even them out and bring them in. And let's go to... no, that's okay. It looks kind of like it. Maybe actually, let's just taper it slightly like so. It's hard to tell. Something like this. Again, it's just a tiny detail, so shouldn't spend too much time on it. So let's select these vertices, maybe just fix it slightly by pushing them forward. Okay. Something like this. Cool. And we'll just move it down and scale it down a bit. A little bit more maybe, like this. A little bit more extrusion maybe. Something like that maybe. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to place the center, rather the pivot of this, in the center of the structure. So actually, if we click here, we can get the wireframe, just so it makes it easier for us to see what we're doing. And if I click D, I can move around my pivot of my object while I'm in the translation mode. If I click X, I can move my object and snap it to the grid. And I have to click X and hold it while I move, so it snaps like that. So let's bring it back. If I click D and X, I can... Oops. Yeah, D and X, I can move my pivot and snap it to the grid instead. And lastly, if I click V, I can snap objects to any vertice that is on any object in the scene that is visible. But if I click D and V, then I can take my pivot and snap it to any vertice as well. So I want to snap it straight to this center vertice. So now, as you can see, if I rotate this, it'll rotate around the axis. So what I want to do now is go to Edit, Duplicate Special, and I want to click on this little box. And I want to create copies. I'll make maybe how many copies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe let's do 18. So 17 copies, because we already have one, so that'll be 18 put together. And I want to rotate them by whatever is 360 degrees divided by 18. I think that's 20 degrees each. So if I click apply, okay. All of these have been duplicated around the center. There are 18 in total, and each one is 20 degrees off of each other. Okay. So now I have this complete. Let's just select all of these cubes. Let's click underscore geo. So now we have all that. Let's disable the wireframe. So it looks quite similar to the photo. Lastly, we have this little bit here. Let's just make, I don't know, maybe half of this is one object. So let's create a little cylinder. Let's bring it up. Scale it down. And what I'll want to do is select all of these top vertices and let's bring them down. Okay, let's scale them down like this. Let's select faces, the top ones. I will extrude inwards and up. Okay, something like that. Extrude again, like that, just to get a nice ridge. It doesn't have to be perfectly accurate to the photo, we're just trying to capture the general feeling and trying to be inspired by this realistic detail. No one is going to scrutinize this enough to look at these little ornaments, but just trying to get the general feel of the architecture working with the details is quite good. So I don't see too much point though in modeling anything much more detailed than this when making a large image like the one this tutorial is looking at, because it's just a waste of time in terms of what will actually be visible. So if I control shift and click insert edge loop, I can have it added to the top shelf there, just for quickness. So let's just create one here and let's bring it up. And again, I can select, let's select this side individually by clicking that button. So now we don't see anything else. So we can work on this separately. So let's select all of these edges and let's deselect the horizontal loops. And also let's deselect the bottom. So now we only have these vertical edges. So let's just bevel them. Okay. And maybe let's go into let's go into these beveling settings and change the fraction to 0.3. That looks better. Okay, so now let's select these faces like we did the last time. So, slightly time consuming, but still quite quick. Cool. And let's just extrude them. Okay, that's kind of like it. Maybe let's move the extrusions down. Okay. Pretty good. Okay, good enough at least. Let's actually take the top And let's select these. Now also, if you click that button, you can just view the selection. So we can see that actually I've selected a few faces that I didn't want, so I'll just deselect them. So now we go back, and we only have the top faces for sure. Let's just extrude these slightly like this. And then let's extrude up again. Okay, so about midway through this object now, on top. Okay, slightly like this. Bring it in again. That's kind of the general shape of this. Cool. Okay, now let's create this last little bit at the top. Yeah, let's... What other technique can we use? Yeah, let's do the same as we did with these little things. And let's just create a little cube. Bring it up. And scale it down. Let's scale it down. Like this. Move it up. Okay, it's about maybe this size. So we will want to add a edge loop here. Sorry, actually let's go into the edge loop settings and relative distance from edge. And let's just add it here. And let's select these top vertices, move them like this. And let's rotate them a bit, like that. Something like this. And let's insert one edge loop at the bottom. And let's select vertices. Okay, something like this. Let's again click B for soft selection and increase the radius like this. And let's reduce the scale at the bottom. Okay, like that. Okay, let's bring this back up a little bit. And let's again insert an edge loop, but select multiple edge loops and put it in the center. And let's select the top and move it up. Okay. So I can add another edge loop here. Select it and make it more rounded like this. Yeah, that's pretty similar. Let's do another one here. And let's just move it to make it more rounded as well. And that kind of looks like the right shade. Again, I'm not trying to make anything perfect here. Just some detail. So let's move that there. It's probably slightly too small. Let's make it slightly bigger. Cool. And again, let's enable our wireframe. And let's click D plus V to move our pivot to the center. So now let's go to Edit, Duplicate Special. And I think I want maybe 8 copies. So click 7 here. And 45-degree angles. Apply. Okay. That's more or less it. I quite like it. Cool. Not perfect, but pretty good. So I think for this top bit, how about we just cheat and extrude this again? So like this. And it's hard to tell what's going on there, but let's extrude it outwards like this. And like this. And let's make this sort of shape here. Okay. And let's taper this in like this, and with a little spire on top. Oops. So let's just scale that slightly. Okay. Cool. Yeah, more or less. Not perfect, but pretty good from distance. Okay. So we want to slightly... How about I go here and select all of these. That's all of them? Yep. And what I will do is mesh combine. And if I go to edit, delete all by type history, I can get rid of those other groups. So let's just select these vertices. And let's just, if I hold down Control, I can do this. Scale them up slightly like this. Yeah. Yeah, that's something like what we want. My apologies. So let's move on to the final piece of the modeling, which will be these small towers. Okay, let's see. Let's zoom in on them. On this one. This one is quite clear. Okay. So quite simple. So let's select all of these together. And let's add them into one geo group. I'll add these to the ornaments and select all. And let's just Control G. We'll call this Temple Tower Geo. Actually, let me check. How many towers have I made previously? 2? Okay, I'll call this Tower 03 Geo. Okay. So I'll just Control H to hide this. And let's select this whole edge loop like this. So around there. And let's change the rotation in Y to 22.5. Now the flat side lines up with the